Hello, I'm Mimi Lichtenstein, and today I am here with my partner, Kristin. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce her last name. I'm going to let her do that for you. And we are going to talk all about Iceland and the amazing things that you can do in Iceland. Kristin, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mimi.
We're so glad to have you here. We're so glad, it's going to be so fun to talk about Iceland. I know it's a place for many people, it's on their bucket list who are active people, adventurous travelers. There's so many beautiful things to see. So I'm super excited to have you here and draw on all of your expertise and knowledge. And I know, just for other people's benefit, you lived in the United States for quite a while before you headed back home to Iceland to begin this career path. So do you want to tell us a little bit about how that happened?
Sure. So I went to the States to do my college and university education. So I went to New York and I lived there, finished both my bachelor's and master's degrees, was working in sort of multimedia and the software business in New York. Never really planned to stay as long as I did, but I had a great job, and then I actually moved out to the West Coast, lived in Seattle, and my husband, who's also Icelandic, we were kind of doing this together. We had hooked up in New York, and then before we knew it, more than 20 years had gone by, and we were still in the States. But eventually, we have twins. When they were 8 years old, we thought, either we stay here in the States or we move back home. And we decided, let's go back home, get closer to family. And that's what we did.
Nice. And now you get to bring lots of Americans into your beautiful country.
Yes. And that was really sort of a bit of the vision for our company when we started is all our friends in the US, most of them had not really ever been to Iceland. This is back, 12, 13 years ago, before Americans really discovered Iceland. And our vision was, how would our American friends like to travel in Iceland? And so keeping that in mind, that's how we, that was our vision for the company from the start.
Okay, well, we have lots of Americans who want to come to Iceland. And you know what? From the East Coast, it's actually not a very far trip. So nonstop from up and down the East Coast, lots of places.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like 5 hours. So
yeah, so it's like practically going from East Coast to West Coast in the US. Okay, right. So let's maybe give us a little bit of a tour. I loved how you were telling me how you described the shape of Iceland. Tell us different areas.
So I was telling Mimi that, when I look at the map and I see Iceland, it reminds me of a duck swimming on water, where you have the body, and then you have the head, which is, up, that craggy head, that would be the West Fjords. And then down in the lower, sort of the southwestern corner, that's where Reykjavík is, which is our capital. And so that, I guess that would be one of the feats. Anyway, so Iceland, an island, of course, it's bigger than most people think. It's about the size of Ohio or Kentucky. It's about a third larger than Ireland. So it's a decent size, but there's very few of us, only 350,000. So that's not a lot of people. And of those 350,000, more than 200,000, so 2/3 live in Reykjavík and the suburbs around Reykjavík, and then the rest, about 100,000 or so, are scattered in small towns and villages around the edge of Iceland. So really kind of only living in the lowlands around the edges. And then the interior, that you see there with the big white blotches, those are glaciers. That's all the highlands and totally uninhabited and just amazing wilderness.
Wow. And you get the best of both, right? You get the cool chicness of Reykjavík. You get the beautiful coastal waters, and then you can go internally and see some of the the mountains, the glaciers, and all the beautiful waterfalls. There's just so much.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. Well, let's just touch on really quickly. Here's what we'll go over today, which is sort of what we love to go over each time. We'll walk through some of the fun experiences you can have, of Kristin's favorite off the beaten path places, hotels, some new hotels that are coming out, as well as some of our favorites, and then some over the top ideas, which I have a few of, and I'm sure Kristin does as well, and then some takeaway tips about the best times to come and other things to do when you're planning a trip. So let's dive in. 4x4s. Obviously, the terrain is set up very nicely to be driving 4x4s instead of perhaps just a regular sedan.
Right.
Tell us about some of these expeditions.
Right. So because Iceland, like I said, it's mostly just pure wilderness and highlands and mountain roads. The best way to get to those beautiful sort of off the beaten track areas is in a 4x4 vehicle. So, and in Iceland, we love these expedition type vehicles that are not just 4x4, but also have been modified with larger tires that allow you to get to these places. Like, you can even go up on a glacier and in many areas you have to ford through rivers and so forth, or, drive these sandy deserts, but always keeping in mind you can't go off-road. But with an experienced guide who one knows how to drive these vehicles and knows how to get there, we always do that also in a safe way to protect the environment. Mm-hmm. So it's super fun to travel in these types of vehicles, and so that's sort of key part of the experience. Also in the winter when the weather can be very unpredictable, you can pretty much get anywhere in these cars. So. Especially if people with the guides who know how to drive them.
Yeah, and I think Iceland's one of those places. Sometimes travelers want to rent a car so they can kind of go off on their own and around, and that works great in certain countries and not so great in other countries. Iceland is one of those places where if you do have a driver, they're not just driving you. Obviously, they might be getting you places that you wouldn't be comfortable going on your own, but they're also telling you about the geology or, the history and the culture of Iceland. So it's kind of, it's a richer experience than if you're just driving around looking at your map or your GPS trying to figure out where you're going.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's like traveling with a friend, like a local friend.
Yeah.
And you always going to meet and, people or, get into situations that you would never be able to do on your own that are interesting, that kind of give you an insider view to what Iceland's all about. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. And so obviously Iceland's got a lot of very cool geology, including a volcano that has been erupting lately. So tell us a little bit about some of the places that you go to learn about the geology of Iceland.
Yes. So, I mean, Iceland is such an interesting country, geologically speaking, because we are located right on the mid-Atlantic ridge. So that's why it's so volcanic, because the tectonic plates are pulling apart, and underneath there's this, they call it like, it goes straight to the core of the earth, and there's all this magma coming up. So and it finds its way through the Icelandic volcano. So we usually have eruptions about every 4 to 5 years. And our latest eruption just started a month ago. And it's located, 40 miles south of Reykjavík. Icelanders are so super excited about this eruption. I think already almost half of the population has gone to see it. It's so beautiful, and it's been changing just in the last month because new and new craters are opening and then closing again. And we can see it from Reykjavík. I mean, we can see the steam coming up. And in some places in Reykjavík, you can actually see the glow from it. So it's pretty exciting. So volcanoes and geysers, glaciers. I mean, Iceland is still, it's a young country. It's still geologically, developing. So anyone who's interested in geology would love to come to Iceland. And we love to explain our geology to visitors.
I have a friend from here in Hanover who is Icelandic, I was mentioning to you, and she flew back to Iceland, I think a week or two ago. And the plane actually did a pass so that people could see the volcano from the air. Obviously not too close, but I can imagine that would be quite a scene. And I know we're going to touch on at one point helicopters, but I'll ask you now so I don't forget. If people are going to go up in helicopters in Iceland, what are the best areas to do that from or over?
So, I mean, there's so many different varieties. Obviously, now going to see this volcanic eruption is a great heli tour. I did that the other day, and it was amazing because they can fly right over the crater, and you're just looking right into it. It was just wow. And then they land, you know, at a safe distance, and you can get out of the helicopter and just watch it. It's mesmerizing. So that's one thing, of course. You can do a heli tour and land on a glacier, which is also interesting. You can go, you know, land up in the highlands. You know, there are, you know, volcanoes that you cannot, not more like, you know, waterfalls, you know, lava fields, you know, extinct volcanoes. There's just so much to see that you can't even hike to, but you can get there with a helicopter. So there's many different types of heli tours, and they're pretty fascinating. So yes.
I think there's certain places in the world where it's definitely worth the splurge of a helicopter, and Iceland is one of them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's beautiful.
And then hiking, that's a huge American pastime for people who love to be in the outdoors and be active. Tell us a little bit about where are some of your favorite places to go hiking?
Hiking in Iceland is, you know, there's so much variety. I mean, it's definitely a hiker's paradise. It's very easy to go hiking in Iceland. You know, you can do day hikes, you can do longer treks. We were talking a little bit about that, hut to hut. But I would say, you know, there's an area called Þórsmörk, which is a wilderness area that has fantastic hiking. I love going there. Also in Skaftafell National Park, which is in the southeast. There's probably one of my sort of most favorite areas. It's sort of underneath that big white blotch, which is a big glacier. It's called Skaftafell. Fantastic hiking there. I'm just thinking of one of my favorite spots in Iceland is there. You hike up on this heath, and you know you're looking out over a glacier tongue. You're looking towards actually the highest peak in Iceland. You're looking back towards the massive ice cap, out towards black sanded beaches and the ocean. And then you look down and there are wildflowers, and to get to this point, you hiked probably past 3 or 4 beautiful waterfalls. I mean, it's just fantastic. So that's one favorite spot at least.
Okay. Well, you know, I should have prefaced this whole show with I can't really pronounce anything other than Reykjavík. So
when you were Skaftafell is, you pointed to it on the map.
Well, I know where it is. I just can't say it. Okay. And then the glaciers, you touched on that. The middle picture here, is this of an ice cave in a glacier?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, exactly. This particular picture was taken by one of our guides, traveling with a family from the US. And that is in an ice cave located in Vatnajökull, the big glacier. But there are ice caves in other glaciers as well. And, you know, glaciers cover in about 10% of Iceland. And, you know, they're beautiful there are different ways to experience them. I mean, you can go to an ice cave, or you can go hike on a glacier. And we love taking guests to do that. So you put on crampons and you have an ice axe, and you just go into this world of, you know, ridges, you know, blue ice. Often there's also ash from volcanic eruptions, you know, just beautiful formations, and it constantly changing, right? Because the glacier is constantly, you know, pulling back, you know, retreating, or it's growing. So every time you go to a glacier tongue, it's different.
Mm.
Or you can, like that picture, on the right is snowmobiling on a glacier.
Mm-hmm. What makes the blue color? Is it there's light kind of at the end of that tunnel there?
It's really the density of the glacier. It becomes blue because there's no oxygen, because it's so dense that that makes the blue color. So like, for example, when you make ice cubes, in your freezer, it's never blue because that's not it's filled with oxygen. But as the glacier forms, it year after year it's been pressed down and pressed down, and some of that ice is, like, for example, if you go sailing on a glacier lagoon, they will often take up these ice chunks and show you and say, this is 1,000-year-old ice, and it really is. And they'll offer you a drink. You want some ice with that, you want some 1,000-year-old ice to put in your drink.
And I assume at some cocktail bars or restaurants that they serve drinks that have like 1,000-year-old glacier ice in them.
Yes. If they, it melts fast, but yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's the reason it's so blue.
Well, after you do all of this amazing outdoor hiking and exploring, then it's definitely time to go soak in some hot springs.
Yes, we're so lucky. Yeah, we have so much hot water.
So much hot water, which is funny, right, for your country that's called Iceland.
Right.
And the Blue Lagoon is obviously super famous. Tell us a little bit about the Blue Lagoon, and then maybe some other ones that are a little more off the beaten path than that very well known.
Right. So Blue Lagoon, very famous. It's close to the airport. Not that far from Reykjavík. I mean, it is amazing, and it has this milky blue color. That's sort of opaque because it's filled with silica and minerals that are extremely good for your skin. And it's very unique because it is a mix of seawater that seeps into the earth in that area because it's very porous. The earth, it's very young. It's young lava fields where the ocean seeps into it. And then there's also the geothermal water that's just heated by the heat from within because it's a volcanic area. So the Blue Lagoon is actually located not that far from where the volcanic eruption is right now. So Blue Lagoon, I mean, it is a fantastic experience, and although it's well known and some people say, oh, isn't it touristy, I would, I highly recommend it. I mean, it's so different from anything else that you will experience. But that being said, there are many really nice geothermal baths in Iceland, and more are opening. The one there in the middle is up in the north. It's called GeoC, and so that looks out over the ocean to the north. It's in a small town called Húsavík, which is sort of the whale watching capital of Iceland. And then, of course, there are natural hot springs up in the highlands that you can bathe in, and you can go hiking with your guide, and it can take you to these sort of hidden, totally natural, and you have to be ready to jump into them.
Of course.
Yeah. And then there's the newest just opened last week. This one's called Sky Lagoon. Really, they did a fantastic job. So it's located, short drive from the center of Reykjavík, like 5-10 minutes. And it's by the ocean. So it's this huge, really hot tub. It's big, and it's, really warm water. And it's like an infinity pool with fantastic views over the ocean and towards the mountains. And then they have, they call it the ritual. So it includes like 7 steps of wellness. You go into the, the big pool, which is warm. Then you do a cold water, plunge thing, to cool off. Then you go into their sauna, which is beautiful, has this big picture window with views of the ocean and the mountains, just fantastic. Then I think next was a mist, so the outdoor kind of cooling mist. Then you do a scrub, then you go to and do a steam bath, and you come out of this thing just like, oh my God, I'm so relaxed. They did a great job with that. So that's our newest one.
Would you suggest people hold off on the geothermal baths in the Blue Lagoon until the end of their trip for that reason?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you could do both. I mean, sometimes what we like to do is, that when you're coming from the US, often you land in the early morning in Iceland.
Mm-hmm.
And the Blue Lagoon is so close to the airport that it is often nice to just go directly there and kind of recover from your flight, because it's really on the way into Reykjavík. So you can kind of start with that. But then, during your visit, try one of the other, bathing experiences, or, end at the Blue Lagoon for sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
There's also just the regular Icelandic swimming pools that, is what the locals love, which are geothermal outdoor swimming pools where Icelandic families go with hot tubs, warmer pools, slides for the kids, very inexpensive, especially fun for families with younger kids, where the parents can sit in the hot tub and watch the kids, do the slide over and over again. Yes.
Perfect. And since I mostly have a lot of clients who have, kids up to teenagers and young adults, I think that geothermal baths are happy, make the whole family happy. Anytime you have water and children, it usually is a good combination.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's move on a little bit. We talked a little bit about the gorgeous waterfalls. I mean, they're all so stunning. I would question for you about, for example, you have, the green one in the middle, which is obviously more of summertime. And on the right, do you still see that in the summer, spring, fall, or is that a midwinter picture?
No, that's a midwinter picture,
Okay.
And that particular waterfall is called Skógafoss. It's on the south coast. It's beautiful. It's such an iconic waterfall. And so that's a midwinter, photo of that waterfall. But it's also beautiful, of course, in the summer where it's all green and lush all around it. So it's just to show how, they're beautiful in the winter and they're beautiful in the summer,
Absolutely. And so here's another example of, a lot of people think I should go to Iceland in the summer, so it's not that cold. But if you go in the wintertime, then you have the potential to see the gorgeous northern lights.
Exactly. Yes. And the northern light season is pretty long. They start showing up in September. By mid-September, often around the fall equinox and the spring equinox tends to be a good time to see the northern lights for some reason. I mean, but all winter, for sure. But by mid-September, they're often visible, and then the season goes all the way till early to mid-April.
Yeah.
So it's a long season.
Which is nice, because some of the other places that people go to see the northern lights, it's a shorter season. So if you have time, in October, there's a possibility. And this personally is on my list for my next trip to Iceland.
This is for the adventure types like you, for sure.
Yes. And so tell us a little bit about this. This is essentially snorkeling in suits.
Yeah, this is really fun. This is in a lake called Lake Thingvellir. Thingvellir is a national park, only 45-minute drive from Reykjavík. And in this lake, which is actually located in what's called a rift valley, which is between two tectonic plates. So geologically, it's a fascinating area. And in the lake, there are these canyons. It's beautiful canyons because you really are, you are between the continents. And it's very popular with divers, and also, you can snorkel as well, because the water is extremely clear, but also extremely cold. So that's why you have to wear a dry suit. You can't wear a wetsuit because the water is too cold. Mm-hmm. And you go there, and the views down into this lake is just fantastic. So it's a unique and beautiful experience for those who dare.
Well, I think on the opposite end, it reminds me of cenotes in the Yucatan of Mexico, right? It's really just, the one place in the world where you can go and have that cool experience. And those are at least warm.
Yeah.
This is the opposite, but obviously that's so unique to Iceland. Yeah, just looks stunning. And then some pictures of the helicopter tours. Look at that. So is this the particular one that is erupting right now?
Yeah. So this is a new picture just taken, a couple of weeks ago from the current eruption.
Wow. That is absolutely stunning. And I think it's one of those things that until you see it in person, I remember going up on Mount Etna volcano in Sicily with our family and just seeing the black path of the lava from whenever the last eruption was. And that was cool enough as it was, and nothing was erupting.
Yeah, exactly. No, it is mesmerizing. And I have to tell you, I'm actually thinking about hiking there this weekend.
Okay.
Because it's constantly changing. So you can either do the helicopter tour or you can hike there. And the hike is about, an hour, 15 minutes or so one way. Because, once you get there, you just want to sit there and watch. It's just beautiful. And the sounds, interesting sounds, because you're seeing the lava just like flowing, and it's, and there's always something going on, and it's amazing. It's amazing. So highly recommend it. And then saying that it may last for a while, so we're hoping it will.
Okay, awesome. Well, I think for people, who are interested in coming in the next few months, then they know that
hopefully it will still be going on. But like you said, I think it's still going to be interesting to go see it even after it stops erupting.
Absolutely. And then kind of not the opposite end of the spectrum, but a little different than the outdoor adventures. You guys have lots of delicious food in Iceland and fish, obviously. And so tell us a little bit about some of the gourmet cooking classes or food tours that you can do.
Yes. So, Iceland, like you said, great seafood. That's sort of our specialty, really fresh, good fish from the Atlantic Ocean. Also lamb, we have free-ranging lamb. Lamb is a big, part of our culture. We have, probably more sheep than people, a little bit like New Zealand.
Yeah.
So that's very much part of our cuisine. Also dairy is big in Iceland. So really good cheeses and yogurts and skyr, which I think has become popular in even in the US, that sort of Icelandic cheese yogurt combination. But often we hear that people, when they come and visit, they aren't necessarily expecting the food to be anything, amazing. And when they come, it's like, wow, the food is so good. Yeah. So that's exciting. And I think it's just the produce is very fresh. I think our chefs, really taken up the sort of new Nordic cuisine. Both use, traditional cooking, but also adding sort of more modern twist. And there's some great cooking classes where you can learn to cook some of the sort of Icelandic traditional, foods like seafood, lamb, stuff like that. Yeah. And then, we can arrange for some amazing gourmet tours where you can actually get to meet some of the chefs, and they will do, prepare some meals that's specifically for you. So that's sort of a more exclusive thing. Okay. Yeah, there's really, really lots going on in the food scene, and especially in Reykjavík, really good food.
And tell me, so before we got on, you and I talked about, and I asked you about the best restaurant in Iceland. I think I might have read it in a Condé Nast article or something, but of course I can't pronounce it. So what was it called?
Oh, Tjörhúsið.
Yes.
Yeah, it's definitely, probably one of the best. It's up in the West Fjords, in a small town called Ísafjörður or Ísafjord. So nice, very nice sort of, local small restaurant there. Mm-hmm. Yes. So one of many, I think it's not, one of many really good restaurants in Iceland for sure.
And what would you say in Reykjavik, since most people are going to fly in and out of Reykjavik and will spend some time there? Do you have, just kind of a favorite everyday Icelandic restaurant or somewhere that you would suggest that isn't super well known or Michelin star?
Yes, I mean, I would say the Fish Company is one of my favorites, and they don't just have seafood, although it's called the Fish Company. Just really good sort of Icelandic, and they have sort of smaller, we can do a lot of tastings. I love that.
Okay.
Also, Snaps is one, sort of like Scandinavian bistro type
Okay.
food, really good. Of course, there are sort of more fancy ones like Dill, which is our only Michelin starred one. I mean, they're fantastic. More fancy dining, and also new restaurants are coming up. There's one called Horsilo, which is new. So yeah, small place. They're only 12 seats.
Okay.
And they have a very small menu, but they change it every week.
Okay.
So you kind of have to be ready to pretty much just eat what the chef decides. That, not a big menu.
And you assume it's going to be delicious.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
Okay.
It always is. So
Before we transition to talking about hotels, I just noticed that Michelle wrote in asking if there's glacier hiking all year round, including the summer.
yes, absolutely. Glacier hiking is year round. Snowmobiling on a glacier is also year round, although snowmobiling is better in the winter on a glacier, but the glacier hiking is just as good in the summer as it is in the winter.
Okay. All right, so let's dive into, and I don't know that there's a particular order, but Reykjavik, obviously, it's the biggest city, it probably has the most hotels. Tell us a little bit about some of your favorites.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's quite a few good hotels, but, just a few, I put a few in there that are some of our favorites, like the Consulate is fairly new. It's been around maybe 3 or 4 years now. It's in a beautiful old building. They did a really nice job of, creating and renovating this building and tying the hotel into the history of the building. It used to be a consulate, obviously. And it's in a nice location. It's fairly small, boutique-y, great service. So it tends to be one of our go-to hotels.
Okay.
Hotel Ronco is in the south, about an hour and a half from Reykjavík. We love this hotel because they have really good service. They have an amazing restaurant, and it's in such a good location for seeing the Northern Lights.
And I love the decor. That is very vibrant and very
Yeah, and it's just there's such a good atmosphere at that hotel. So the people who run it are just wonderful. So everybody loves going there.
And now this one I love because it brings in also some of the beautiful wildlife that you have in Iceland. We haven't really touched on the horses, but you have a lot of horses in Iceland.
Right.
Tell us about this place.
Exactly. So this is a small, it's really a ranch, so it's a family-owned small lodge. They only have about 12 rooms, and it's also a ranch, so they breed horses there. And it's in a beautiful location just below Eyjafjallajökull volcano, the one that erupted in 2010. So it's on the south coast, about 2 hours or so from Reykjavík. And, especially for people who are interested in horses, it's a great place to stay. And you get to meet the horses, but we Icelanders always want visitors to interact with our horses because we are so proud of them, and they're so much part of our culture. It's a beautiful breed. It's really become a uniquely Icelandic breed. So it's a horse that was brought to Iceland by the Vikings, way back when Iceland was settled, and they have adjusted to Icelandic conditions and have really become like I say, a unique breed, and they're just so beautiful and friendly.
Yeah, agreed. And there's many places that you can have an experience on horseback. And I highly suggest that if you're coming to Iceland and like horses.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the Blue Lagoon, which we touched on earlier. So their lovely place to stay is called the Retreat. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So this is a beautiful, hotel. Their new ultra luxe hotel that they opened just a few years ago, called the Retreat. So it's separate from the regular Blue Lagoon. It has its own lagoon, the Retreat Lagoon, which is reserved for hotel guests, and an amazing spa, and also something that they call the ritual, which is you go through these sort of the cycle of scrubbing and algae and silica, and as you go through this sort of spa treatment, you come out on the other side just like 10 years have been taken off you. You're much younger and much fresher. They did a really good job with this hotel. It's beautiful and really relaxing.
It looks stunning. This looks stunning too.
This is Doppler Farm up in the north.
So Doppler Farm it's going to be on my list later for an over-the-top experience for sure. It's definitely further out there, much, quite far away from Reykjavík, but I absolutely have on my own personal bucket list to go there, perhaps with a large group of my friends. Tell us why you like it so much.
Well, I mean, it's a beautiful property. So it is like a lodge. I mean, it's not big, about 12 rooms. And it's located up in the north in a valley on what's called the Troll Peninsula. It's a great area for heli skiing. So the lodge was originally built for heli skiing. So in the winter, that's sort of their main thing. So you go there and you heli ski on these amazing mountains around the lodge. But in the summertime, it's also fantastic. You can go fishing, and it's a full experience when you stay there. Everything is is fully inclusive. The food, the activities, and it's just a perfectly very nicely created experience.
Mm-hmm.
So highly recommended.
Well, 2 questions. One is, it looks like there's grass growing all over the roof. Is that?
Yeah, that's a very Icelandic thing. So traditionally, our houses in the old days they were called turf houses, and so they were built from turf and also wood, and the ceilings were always these grass ceilings. So there, that's what influenced the design of the lodge.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And one of the things I'd like to do there when I come visit is to do a yoga class outside on their platform, looking out at the stunning scenery.
Yeah. No, it's beautiful. They have a outdoor, warm pool, an amazing spa. It's really nicely done.
Mm-hmm. And so obviously when we work together, if somebody needs a villa, there's other places where you can do either, a buyout of a small hotel or stay in a stunning villa. You have some amazingly beautiful pictures of some of those right here.
Yeah.
Where is the one in the upper right? That one looks stunning.
Yeah, that one's in the south. It's about an hour and a half from Reykjavík.
Okay.
It's beautiful. And it's called Eldar Lodge. It's quite exclusive. The owner is an amazing chef, actually. So when you go there, he'll come and cook for you. He's one of the best chefs in Iceland. So yeah, these are all villas that they come with full service, and so a chef will come in and cook for you, and there's maid service and so on. And most of them are located in the south, but a few are also located in the west and up in the north as well. Some good selections.
And we always like to touch on some of the new hotels that are opening up, and tell us about. All of these, I think, are in Reykjavík. Oh yeah, they're in Reykjavík.
Yeah, so these are new hotels that are opening this year. They were all supposed to open last year, but been postponed. Mm-hmm. Everyone's very excited about the Marriott Edition, which will be opening now. They say September, October-ish, and so that's going to be down by the harbor in Reykjavík, right in the center of Reykjavík, and mm-hmm. it's going to be the first, truly 5-star hotel in Reykjavík. So we're excited about that. And Reykjavík Parliament is a hotel that's opening on our main square, across the square from Hotel Borg, which is another favorite that I didn't mention before that we use a lot. Mm-hmm. And it's right next to our Parliament building. And that's supposed to open in the fall as well. And then the third one is Hotel Reykjavík working title, also in the center. So it's just, lots of new hotels opening, which is exciting.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's a testament to how popular Iceland has become for
exactly.
people who it might not pop up as the first item on people's bucket lists, but people who are well traveled who want to go new places, it's definitely on their list.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah, I see the sun is just coming in through my window, the evening sun,
Lucky you.
Yeah.
I don't have such a problem today in New Hampshire. The most charming town in Iceland, which mm-hmm. when you and I spoke before, it was, well, there's so many charming towns in Iceland. Which one? But the one that I mentioned, which, tell me, will you pronounce it for me? I know I can't do it.
Seydisfjordur.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think what's fun about, going out and about in Iceland, you don't just go there and stay in Reykjavík. You're out there visiting all these little places that are charming, picturesque, and beautiful. So put that one on your list to visit too.
Yeah.
And so if we were to go into some of our over-the-top ideas for experiences or places, we touched on the Blue Lagoon. Tell mm-hmm. me a little bit about what is their sort of most over-the-top suite that they have there.
Yeah, I would say, they call it the Blue Lagoon Suite, their main master suite, and it's amazing. It's on 2 floors. So it's as like a big apartment almost. So you have living quarters, kitchen, sleeping quarters, and then you have your own private lagoon and your own private spa within your suite. So, and just fantastically beautifully designed. And yes, I wouldn't mind staying there for a few nights.
We'll put it on the list.
Yeah, it's fantastic. They've done a fantastic job, and we've had guests stay there, and they've absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it.
And it's a very unique, accommodation in a unique place. So I imagine books up rather early. So if you want to have that on your bucket list, best to think that far in advance. And then tell us a little bit more about doing some catered dinners in unique places around.
Yes. There's so many interesting places, that where you can actually have dinners, if you want to go, do something very unique and different. For example, you could have a spread up on top of a glacier. That's one thing. Or you can go into a beautiful cave and have a catered lunch there with views out to the ocean. Another thing that we have done is there are some uninhabited islands off the south coast, and you could maybe go there in a rib boat and then go to this island and have dinner set up there. So those are just a few ideas of sort of more over-the-top, unique experiences.
Mm-hmm. They sound amazing. And we touched on taking helicopters. So if you're going to go up and see the volcano, that would be one. And then Doppler Farms, which we brought up earlier. If you want to do a full buyout of Doppler Farms, which I think 12, 13 rooms, I think, right?
Yes. Yeah, I think it's 13. The 13th room is sort of, it has bunk beds.
Okay. So if you have a couple kids with you,
It's great fun for kids.
you're right.
And you can, of course, take a helicopter all the way to Doppler Farm from Reykjavík. We do that quite often. And the way we set it up is that you then fly over the highlands. I mean, it's beautiful, and then land in maybe one or two places on the way, next to a waterfall or, some beautiful spot that only these helicopter pilots know about.
I think combining over the top experiences is always a good idea. So I love that one. And then we talked a little bit about together too, the Aston Martin. So there's been a couple of James Bond films filmed in Iceland.
Right.
And so you can actually get an Aston Martin V12 Vanquish, which I've learned is the car I think he drove in one of them, and drive that around Iceland for the afternoon or in a particular location. That would be super fun.
Yes.
Well, the list is long of things to do. Would you say, so when people are coming, typically Americans go away, a lot of times for a week. I think it's become the idea is that it might get a little bit longer. But would you say, what would you suggest is a good overall itinerary for a week visit?
A good overall itinerary. I mean, I think if you're coming in the summer, and you stay for about a week, I think that, you probably want to experience, glaciers, maybe blackened sand beaches, beautiful waterfalls, wilderness, highlands, lava fields, and all the, the horses and all that. Then I would, take you along the south coast and into the highlands, like a loop from Reykjavík. Mm-hmm. You are going to see so much variety and so much beautiful nature on a trip like that. Mm-hmm. And if that's your first trip to Iceland, and then next time go up to the north.
Yeah, you can't squeeze it all in a week, that's for sure. It doesn't look like such a big country, but there's too much to see.
Yes. No, you don't want to. I mean, I think some people have heard about the ring road that goes around Iceland. Mm-hmm. And yes, I mean, you could drive that road for a week, but you're pretty much just staying on that road and doing a lot of driving. So I don't think that's necessarily the best way to experience Iceland. Mm-hmm. Although, I mean, certainly some people do that. Mm-hmm. If you wanted to do the ring road, I would do it in at least 10 to 12 days. And then, you kind of go into the highlands as well, not just follow the main road.
And definitely spend some time in Reykjavík because it's such a cool city. It has, like we talked about, great food. It has great music scene, like a cool nightlife.
True.
Right? So there's a lot of very cool cultural things to do that the Icelandic people are out doing in Reykjavík.
That's true.
Then aren't there? So there's definitely a few museums, of which I know one is like a punk museum. Is that right?
That's right. Yes. There's a punk museum right in downtown Reykjavík. It's tiny, but it's very fun and interesting.
Yeah. There's a few. There's even one that's a little stranger than that, I think.
I think I know which one you're referring to. You say it.
I don't even know what the word is obviously in Icelandic, but some sort of phallic museum where there's lots of body parts from many different mammal species.
Yes, exactly.
Or maybe one body part from many different mammal species.
Yeah. I think the owner is wonderfully eccentric, and yes, so he has collected these specimens for over the years and is displaying them, and it's kind of something.
There's also a very unique museum, I think, on Tasmania that is along similar lines to yours.
So, okay. Yeah.
We'll leave that for the Australia show.
Right.
And so, what about it before we end? Any takeaway tips for people about, obviously, Iceland? I think one is that you can go to Iceland all year round. It's not just a summer destination. Are there favorite times of year that you have to go there, or any other tips that you can share with people?
I mean, of course, we Icelanders love the summer, when the day is very, very long. There's a certain kind of energy sort of a magical energy in the evenings and during the night when the sun doesn't set. So that's, definitely a favorite time of year, great for hiking and so forth. But also then, I mean, I love the fall in Iceland. After the summer, the long summer with the long days, we start craving to start to see a little bit of darkness again and maybe light a candle, which you don't do all summer because it's never dark, right? And the light is so beautiful and so crisp, like in September and October. It's usually a favorite time of year for photographers. But then, I mean, the midwinter, although the days are short, there is another sort of magical feeling about the winter because the sunrises and the sunsets are so long, like there's this twilight, that this bluish, beautiful bluish light that is also beautiful, very cozy, and and we love that, which is good because the day is very short, so it's good that we love that, right?
Absolutely. You know what? I live in the north of the United States. You must learn to embrace the winter, or you're going to be a very unhappy person.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, great. So thank you so much, Kristin. This has been super fun. I can't wait until I personally get myself to Iceland, and I really appreciate you sharing all of your expertise and insights with us.
Thank you so much, Mimi. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for this opportunity.
Absolutely. Take care.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.